why do they keep repeating this myth over and over again? Welcome back to Nutrition con Sabor. I'm Krista, I'm a Latina dietitian, and I'm here to talk about Latin American food, nutrition, and food history. My goal with all of my work is to help you embrace your cultural foods and meet your health goals without disconnecting from our food culture. Today, in this episode, we're going to debunk a common myth about Mexican food and explore the rich world of vegetables in Mexican cuisine. So let's get started. We are going to start with, do Latinos eat vegetables? Specifically Mexican Americans, because that's the focus of today's episode. So as a Latina dietitian, a myth I hear almost every day is that Mexican food does not have many vegetables, or also that Mexican people do not eat vegetables. When I was training to become a dietitian, one of the dietitians who I was shadowing said this to my face when I told her I was Mexican American and was interested in including Mexican food in the curriculum. Thanks. Also, when I was at school, other Mexican Americans would tell me the same thing though. They would say it because they were excited that I was becoming a dietitian. They would say, oh, that's so great. Our community needs more dietitians because, we don't really eat vegetables. And when I post about vegetables in Mexican food on Instagram, I always get comments. So a few of the comments I got on a post about, some unexpected sources of vegetables in Mexican food include not a lot of leafy or fiber-rich vegetables, to which I just said not true. This person said, you're proving the point, chayote and zucchinis and peppers are fruits. We'll talk about that more in a second. You'd hardly see fiber-rich green leafy vegetables in Mexican cuisine. So obviously this misconception is everywhere and very pervasive, but that's why we're here today. We're going to bust this myth for good. So, big question, does Mexican food have vegetables in it? Spoiler alert, you should have already caught on to the fact that the answer is yes. But I do have to say that this misconception, with the fact that it exists, is a little bit perplexing to me because I've really found the opposite to be true. I grew up eating Mexican food and Cuban food too, but that's not what we're talking about today. But I grew up eating Mexican food and there were always vegetables around. Plus, historically speaking, I like to talk about history on this channel. A lot of very common vegetables are originally Mexican and Central American. We're talking tomato, chile, avocado, peppers, onion, squash, cactus, all of that are traditional Mexican vegetables that are native to Mexico and were originally cultivated by Mexican people. Okay, quick side note, because I get this comment all the time on social media and I want to make sure that we're clear. A lot of you may be thinking, isn't tomato a fruit? Yes, so are avocados, zucchini, eggplants, bell peppers, and more if we're using the classification of botanically speaking, how it grows. But logically speaking, if I asked you to grab me a piece of fruit from the grocery store, you wouldn't grab a zucchini, would you? Or would you grab a tomato? Probably not. That's because while botanically these foods grow as fruits from a nutrition and culinary standpoint, and I'm a dietitian, so I'm laser focused on the nutrition standpoint, these foods have way more in common with other vegetables than with fruits like bananas or apples. So on my channel, I will refer to tomatoes, avocados, bell peppers, zucchini, all of that as vegetables because that's a much closer reflection of their nutritional value. If you choose to call them fruits in your own life, I'm not going to stop you. So for our purposes, for this channel, tomatoes, vegetable, we're going with it. Okay, back to the actual content. So back to the question, does Mexican food have vegetables in it? Yes, Mexican food has plenty of vegetables to offer, including, like we talked about, tomato, avocado, zucchini, chayote, cabbage, radishes, carrots, onion, chiles, nopales, and many, many more. I could keep going. So why do people think Mexican food doesn't have very many vegetables? And why do they keep repeating this myth over and over again? The main reason is because vegetables show up a little bit differently in Mexican food than they do in American food. What I mean when I say that is when we get used to this very American way of looking at a plate, we expect to see something like this example plate I have here where there's a piece of chicken and then a side of rice and then a side of broccoli or salad, right? We get really used to seeing this image where eating our vegetables means eating a pile of vegetables, usually like broccoli or salad. So in Mexican food, though, it looks a little bit different than this. In Mexican food, vegetables show up in a lot of other places. Yes, of course, we have vegetable side dishes. We have calabacitas, cebollitas, chayote. We have all of those and more. They are vegetable side dishes we can pull from in Mexican food. But something that's unique about Mexican food and what makes a lot of my non-Latino colleagues miss the vegetables that their Mexican clients are eating is that the vegetables may not be on the side like that. Vegetables are more likely to be either a garnish or to be cooked into the dish itself. So let's start with the first option. There are a lot of garnishes that you add to your own plate before eating, and those get missed all the time when thinking about what vegetables you're eating. In Mexican food, this includes salsa and pico de gallo, diced onions and cilantro, shredded cabbage, avocado slices, radish slices, and more. All of those are vegetables, right? The second point is the vegetables that are cooked into the food that you eat. Don't forget that one of the most common types of dishes in Mexican food is soups and stews. So those caldos feature plenty of vegetables, but it's hard to visualize or measure because it's not separated out on the side like that. Also, if you saute onions and garlic before cooking the rest of your food, that does provide nutrition benefits that are super interesting. That's a whole other episode we could spend hours talking about. So just keep that in the back of your mind for now. Okay, so maybe you're like, okay, Krista, I hear you. Mexican food has vegetable options available. But maybe you still feel like you could eat more vegetables and you're not sure where to start. If you just need somewhere to start, here are my top 2 recommendations. The first is to think about garnishes like salsa, shredded cabbage, avocado slices. Ask yourself, A, can I add them to what I'm eating? And B, if they're already there, can I increase them? The second recommendation is for anyone who does want that separate vegetable side on the side of the rest of their plate, but you're not sure where to start. There's so many ideas you can choose from. I could list a ton, but if you need me to just name one to get you started, I would start with calabacitas or zucchini. You can either do a side of just the calabacitas, or you can mix them with bell peppers and onions and do like fajita veggies if you wanted. Obviously, you don't have to take either of those ideas, but I work with clients one-on-one, and a lot of the times they just want me to name something for them to take the mental work out of making the decision themselves. So if that's you, if you just need someone to make the call for you, there you go. I'll have a link to a calabacitas recipe in the description for you too, so you can check that out. Now, if you're looking for a full list of Mexican vegetables, I do have a blog post that named as many Mexican vegetables as I could think of, and it shares a little bit about their health benefits too. So if what you need is more of a list, more ideas, check out that post. The link is in the description. And while you're there, be sure to grab my free 5-day Latino meal planning tool. It has a checklist and food group list to help you start planning balanced meals that also include your favorite Latin American heritage foods. Link will be in the description as well.